Hey, I want to welcome you to segment 2 of Getting Things Done, or How to Get Things Done While Still Having a Life. This segment is entitled Getting to High Ground. I trust you've had the opportunity and you've had some fun, or maybe it wasn't fun, to do your assessment and do your audit and do some detailed, granular look at how it is that every day unfolds in sometimes a very, very surprising way. And quite frankly, how much little detail there is in our days, and sometimes how random things can be. What we're going to discover in this course together is that the most effective people in the world don't try to get it all done. They get the vital things done. And that's going to be a key element of how it is that we're going to journey through this time together. And this segment on Getting to High Ground, and in the notes that's before you, we've provided the notes on the journey pages there for you. We're going to dive into the issue of getting the big picture. And the big picture has to do with taking some time to step back, get above our lives and our leadership, our family life, our personal life, and to ask ourselves the core question: why am I here? And out of that question, why am I here, it's the issue of what is my purpose? My purpose, not the purpose of the person next to me or my family member or my friends or my peers or other colleagues. What is my purpose? You are uniquely wired up by God. You're gifted by Him. You have natural talents and abilities. You have a life experience. You have a life journey. You've had ups and downs. You've had dark days. You've had days when you've been on the mountaintop. You've had great successes. You've had great failures. All of those things have come together to sovereignly form you into who you are this day. And part of what we do in CREST is, at the CREST certificate level, is we take a lot of time with this issue, because many of us at midlife, and some of us at the stage that I'm at, where I'm now in my third of life, it doesn't matter where you are on the life's course. We all have periods where we tend to lose the sense of why we're here. And CREST is a great opportunity in the certificate program for you to really do a deep dive on this, because you look at your entire life journey and all that God has sovereignly put into you, and then where you are today to think through, okay, for the next half of my life, for the next chapters of my life, what is my life really all about? So getting to high ground is getting above the fray and taking time to really ask before God, God, why have you put me here on your green earth? What is my purpose? Tied to that is, what then are the values that are most vital and important in my life? What are my values? And the values exercise is available in a number of different settings. We'll provide you in this segment on Teachable a little exercise that comes out of Kelly McConagle's book on the upside of stress, in which he provides a 2-page overview of some things to think about related to what might be some values. Fascinating research recently from Stanford University indicates that people who take time to clarify their values and write them down, and people who even take a mindset intervention and sit down for 15 minutes to a half an hour and really wrestle through what are my values and write those values down and keep them somehow at hand, that simple exercise, in their research, they've discovered that exercise makes a difference months and sometimes years down the road, particularly related to resilience. Because in hard times, you'd better be able to draw upon a clear purpose, and you are best when you are able to draw upon values. Some of my values that I've worked through, one of them is curiosity, one of them is fun, humor, another one of them is commitment, one of them is perseverance and endurance. And what I've discovered is that when I go through hard times, I immediately draw upon, what are my values? I go through a tough time and I draw upon the value of curiosity. It's simply a learning type of thing. I'm curious about, what is this all about? What can I learn from this? Perseverance. I draw upon my value to persevere and remind myself, oh yeah, it is of value to me to be a person who perseveres. who doesn't give up, who doesn't fold, who doesn't reach for the towel at the first sign of pressure or stress or challenge. So high ground is taking time to think about, what's my purpose? What are my values? High ground is also, getting to high ground is also reminding yourself right now where you're at in your life is, many of you have a vocation, calling, a job, organization you're a part of, maybe a ministry you're a part of, and you have a role. And your role has been laid out for you in such a way that that role provides you some definition as to what you are in that place to steward well, to what you're entrusted with. So high ground is reminding yourself, oh yeah, I have a role, and that role has prescribed for me things that I am responsible for. And it's important that I tend to that role. Hopefully it's in keeping with my purpose. It's in line with that. My values mesh with my role. And so high ground is simply reminding yourself, okay, where I presently work, what is it that's expected of me? What is the bar that has been lifted up that says, we want you to aim for this bar? It's part of how we're going to work on the issue of what's going to be the cascading model. That's the next segment, but we're going to work the cascade. You can't work the cascade unless you're clear. There's clarity about your purpose. In the notes, you'll note there in segment 2 that we talk about getting to a place where you have a depth of purpose. Not only that, you have richness in values. You also have a clarity regarding role. And then as you think of high ground, you're also thinking through the issue of, out of that comes a sense of priority. What is it that must come first? What is it that must be high of mind and high of heart? What are the most important, vital essentials for me to be about? And this is where priority comes in. And then there's the issue of looking at all of this from a high ground and asking, what then are the goals? What then are the specific targets? In this course, we don't go into deeply into the goal realm. We're going to provide perhaps a brief free webinar on the matter of goals and goal setting. We also are going to develop a deep dive simply on the issue of how do we work with this issue of goals in life. Are goals something that we should set? Are goals in keeping with biblical wisdom? Are we being a bit presumptuous? What kind of goals should we set? How should we set goals? There's a number of things here that many of you are aware of. In the last number of years, there's been sort of a template of the SMART goals: specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and timed. Michael Hyatt, got his book up behind me there, has a template in which he has framed what he calls smarter goals. They go a little bit beyond SMART goals, and he uses the acrostic SMARTER. So he actually has 2 more letters. For those of you who are minimalists, you might be interested in the work of Murphy. Mark Murphy, a number of years ago, wrote this book, Hard Goals, and he uses the acrostic HARD. So if you're a minimalist and want some framework for goals, we're going to provide a deep dive later on this whole area and deal with some of these models as well as some other models. But the matter of high ground is getting all the way through down to the issue, okay, then what are my goals? What are the targets and objectives that are most important? At times we talk about what's called the path to productivity, and the path to productivity or vital productivity path is this matter of getting clarity about purpose, values, role, goals. Out of that comes how your goals and objectives tied to your purpose, values, and role are going to fit. That's the issue of priority. You then have to move that into the reality of your week by week, month by month, and year by year life. How my calendar practically expresses my purpose, my values, my role and my goals. So we have to first get clarity, and that's why we get to high ground. We get to high ground to get perspective, because often we lack perspective on the big picture. And that's why the balcony discipline is this vital piece, and we provide you in the material a page on the balcony discipline. And the balcony is where we do our thinking about our stuff. And we do it from the high level. We don't do it related to what is right in front of me today that I need to do. We do it from the level of purpose and values and a role and goals. And then we move that into our year, into our quarter, our month, and our week. And you'll see how that comes together in the cascading model. The balcony discipline. I just want to touch in on the balcony discipline. We provided for you an overview, one-page overview of what is really at the heart of the balcony discipline. It's there for you to look at and read through. It is simply this practice of regularly and doing it on an annual basis in a major way, taking a day to actually get to a balcony where you look at your year. I think it's a good thing to do every quarter, maybe spend half a day every quarter where you get away and you look at the 3 months that are ahead and you maybe reflect on the 3 months behind you. As you look at that point at your quarter, you celebrate what has been done in the past, or maybe you recalibrate your annual plan, and maybe you eliminate some things. But you do that quarterly. Then at the end of every month, you get on a balcony every month, and maybe for an hour or so at the end of every month, maybe a couple hours, you look at the month ahead and you spend time on the balcony looking at your life and your leadership. In keeping with what you're going to see is your annual, what is this year about, overview. It's also then important, I think, weekly to get on a balcony. I spend a half an hour every week, and I put it in my calendar, usually for me on a Thursday afternoon. That just works for me. You might want to do it on a Monday. You might want to do it on a Friday. But I do it on a Thursday. And I weekly get on the balcony and I look at my week. I look at my week as far as it's transpired. I also take a bit of time to look at the week ahead on a Thursday or Friday about the week that's ahead. And it's perspective gaining. It's getting above the forest. Because often we can't see the forest for the trees when we're in the action. We can't sense what's going on in the dance floor of our lives because we're always on the dance floor. Every day is dancing. You actually, as a person and as a leader, need to get above the dance floor and see the larger motions of your life, your leadership. And the balcony discipline is there to sort of give you some ideas and prompts as to what that's about, how to actually do it. It's something to be done with your eyes wide open. It's also something to be done prayerfully. I would encourage you to prayerfully brood over your big picture. And it is that balcony discipline that allows us to be careful and critical reflectors in a life that is fast, rapid fire, distracting, disrupting. This is a game changer, the simple practice of balcony. So I want to encourage you, take some time in the next week or so to look at where you're at in terms of clarity of purpose. If you're not clear on your purpose, it simply prompts you, there's some work to do here. Because if you're not clear about what is ultimate in your life, you'll never be clear about what you need to do immediately. We provided this quote for you that most people do not know what to do immediately, really, because they never figured out what they're about ultimately. And we need clarity about purpose. Maybe you need to do a bit of a values exercise and get clear again. What are the values of my life, my heart, that stand out above all else? What are the key 4, 5, 6 words that simply grasp what are core deeply inside of me, my values, the things that I want to be the guiding principles and practices and mindsets and heart sets of my life? Maybe you need to take some time to revisit your role. Maybe it's been a while since you looked at your job description of what it is your boss actually expects of you, or your lead pastor, or the person in your organization actually has hired you to do. Get clarity about that role. Maybe you haven't recently set any goals. Goals are simply a declared battle with what is. So if you have no goals, there's no fight, there's no battle. Goals are also declaring war against status quo. So if you've got no goals, if all these things begin to make a note to yourself and maybe do a bit of work, because as we get into the cascading model, which is our next segment, you're going to realize how very important it is that we get this kind of clarity, because it has to go from there into an actual strategy, an actual process that will bring for you the kind of attention and focus that will help you to pass that jet stream through the straw that is your one and only life. And we're going to get into the depth of how to get things done while still having a life in segment 3. So thanks for being a part of the journey. I trust you're learning some things, you're discovering some things. You're also being prompted to do some work here, because this is not simply information. If it's only information, it's not going to change anything. Truth and good information is powerful at the point of action. And so we want to encourage you to act and seek to take out of your pocket the pen, pencil, the notebook, segment by segment, and be doing some work to get clarity. And we'll see you next time on segment 3 as we continue on our deep dive webinar, how to get things done while still having a life.